The captive segment continues to grow and has become an integral part of the global insurance industry for corporations of all kinds. A panel of AM Best analysts, Fred Islami and Susan Molyneux, and captive managers Michael O'Malley and Ed Malaspina look at the state of the captive insurance market, reviewing the issues shaping the captive market, including financial results and business environment for captives, risk retention groups, and related organizations.
Performance for RRGs and also other types of captives, they've been excellent. First of all, we look at the net premium written for this universe of 43, 44 RRGs that we have. The premium have been relatively flat during the past 5 years, but the surplus has increased from 1.9 billion to 2.5 billion during the past 5 years, which shows a good chunk of money has remained within the RRG groups. And also we note that there's about 228 million in terms of dividends that goes to the policyholders for these RRGs, which is a good retention practice for the RRG companies to hold their members, to keep their members.
Largely, the captive sector is in the excellent rating category, and they are largely stable. And this here confirms the strength of the captive market and a reflection of the proximity to the risks written, the quality of data, and the involvement and support of the captive owners.
If you look at the Exhibit 4, which shows the entire universe of U.S. captives that we rate, you'll note that again that the premiums have remained relatively flat, so are the loss and LAE reserves. But you see that the surplus has been increasing from 19.6 to 23.3, meaning there is a 3.7 billion increase in surplus during the past 5 years alone. At the same time, these companies paid 1.7 billion in dividends, meaning the total of 5.6 billion actually remained within these companies or given to their policyholders or stockholders instead of spending this money on commercial insurers. So these are the benefits that we see from the captives.
Michael, is that a typical year or anything driving the numbers either way?
No, I think that in general, for smaller captives, there's been increased scrutiny on sort of the tax profile of smaller captives and has had sort of slowed the growth of those entities. For larger captives, I think it's a fairly mature market, large corporates, and as Fred mentioned, when there's acquisitions, oftentimes there may be two captives involved, so they merge into one, so you're going to see a natural attrition rate. What we're seeing in terms of growth is a lot of for-profit structures coming in to play, entrepreneurial type captives, right, where there's an opportunity to market insurance to an affiliated part of the business.
What are you saying? Are tax issues driving anybody's strategy these days?
I think in the U.S., if self-procurement taxes often drive where the captive is located. If it's located in the home state, the tax reform, the impact, we haven't seen much change in our captive operationally. Obviously, there's more net income being generated, but in general, we're not seeing that.
Quick question on legislation. There's a House Bill 6292, which would expand the types of commercial insurance that RRGs could offer. Do you have a position on that?
Yeah, well, I would support that. It's been a very long and difficult battle.
And where do you see what are the things that they ought to expand into that this would enable?
Well, reports like we just heard from AM Best, year after year, RRGs outperforming standard commercial markets.
Rated RRGs.
Rated RRGs. It's a great testament to how well they perform their business. What it would do is expand capacity in the market. So we believe that we've run our programs very well, and certainly what we see in this report is a reflection of that, and we think it would be a great opportunity to extend into property.
Michael, what do you think would be the major points of discussion at Vermont coming up?
From my perspective, I think it's sort of the captive is a maturing market. So the question is, where are the next growth opportunities coming from? And I think, what we're seeing on, at least internally, is medical stop loss and sort of entrepreneurial type programs or for-profit type programs is what we're seeing in terms of growth areas where people are just, I think in general what we're seeing is companies are getting more and more comfortable with their risk and wanting to retain more and more. So it's an interesting relationship. If you have a captive and a large balance sheet, your interaction with the commercial market, because you're trying to expand your retention capabilities, and the commercial market is your partner, but basically as you're expanding your profile, their profile is being reduced. So I think one of the key longer term things to consider is that relationship between captives and the market, and what's the right balance of catastrophic protection from the market and the cost related to that as these captives grow and develop and want to take on more and more risk. It's good. I think the relationships are going to change over time, and it's going to be an interesting dynamic as we move forward.
Captives have done very well at managing expenses, and the more that they can utilize technology to do that, I think that would be something very good to further control their costs. But they're so close to their risks that harnessing data is something that's key for the captive strategy.
To view the full webinar, State of the Insurance Market, and the Best Market Segment Report for the rated captives, it's deja vu all over again, go to ambest.com. AM Best TV full coverage of the VCIA 2018 will be available at ambest.tv/VCI18. For AM Best TV, I'm Meg Green.